What is good, people? Welcome back to another video on 8 count. We had a jam-packed weekend of action in the boxing world, and in today's video I'm going to be discussing two of the biggest fights which went down. Clarissa Shields defeating Savannah Marshall, and Devin Haney defeating George Kambosos Jr. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming content. Leave a comment down below letting me know any of your thoughts on some of the action which went down this past weekend. And let's get straight into the video. Going to start off with Clarissa Shields defeating Savannah Marshall. I did a video for this one a while back, it seems like, giving you my source of opinion on it going into the fight. And boy, did I get this one wrong. It was a tough fight to kind of call going in, I felt like. I thought that Marshall did have that sort of X factor that she could give Clarissa Shields problems. And ultimately, I thought she could, gain that sort of respect of Clarissa Shields and, kind of quiet Clarissa down in the fight and make her less active with the sort of power that Savannah sort of has. And it really didn't go that way. And I'll hold my hands up. I got it wrong. I'm sorry. But ultimately, I felt like this was just an amazing fight throughout. Watching it the first time, hearing the scorecards, I was kind of a bit shocked of, how wide the margin was. I think two of the judges gave it 97-93 and one gave it 98-92. I believe that to be correct. And watching it live, I was like, man, I thought it was a lot closer than that, especially like in my head. But then I went back later that night and I rewatched the fight and I scored it. And I've got my scorecard right here. I ended up scoring it 97-93 in favour of Clarissa Shields, so I could definitely see where the judges were coming from. I gave Marshall's round 6, 9, and 10, and I feel like definitely a couple of those are a bit lenient, I guess I could say, in favour of Savannah Marshall. I definitely think it could be a bit of a wider margin even. I think it could be 9 rounds to 1 in some cases. But maybe that'd be a bit harsh. But overall, I think, Savannah really kind of struggled to get the respect of Clarissa in terms of her power. I think defensively, Shields was just amazing. Really didn't get caught too cleanly too often. And, made it extremely difficult for Savannah. She definitely got the timing of Savannah's jab and was ultimately able to counter quite a lot off it. I thought she was really good as well in terms of just her head movement when she was being backed up against the rope. She was very good at, keeping safe and, being a really frustrating target to hit for Savannah. I felt like Savannah did some decent work at times, but then she kind of just stopped straight in front of Shields and knock out of range, and Shields would just take advantage of that and just go off on her. And for me, I think that was kind of part of the downfall in Marshall's sort of tactics, I guess you could say. I think that Shields was just put on a class show, man. She was extremely active, as were both girls, but she was landing. Her percentages on landing, I'm guessing, are extremely high compared to Marshall's. I think some of the shots she landed were clean, but I think some of them look a lot cleaner than maybe they should have done. I think some of them weren't as clean, and because of the way Savannah was moving her head, it looked like she got hit a couple times more than maybe she did. I think Shields just put on a clinic, man, and ultimately showed why she is the GOAT. I'm super impressed by her. I was also impressed by Marshall, man. I think, despite losing, she lost against who many consider the greatest female boxer in the world right now. And I thought it'd be hard for Shields, for Savannah Marshall to get Shields out of there, just because from what I've seen from Savannah and Shields in her past fights, I haven't seen too much for her on the boxing side. Like I've seen a few of her boxing fights and I've been very impressed. But when I watched her in the PFL in, competing in MMA, despite going 1-on-1, I was extremely impressed with her sort of poise and the dog in her that, she never quit or panicked. Like she was just super composed. And I thought that was going to make it hard for Marshall, but I thought Marshall would definitely earn her respect. And I don't think she did it in a boxing sense of things. Ultimately, coming over here and getting it done in the UK, I'm very, very kind of shocked at the ease in which she did it in the end. But ultimately, very, very impressed. And for me, rightfully the winner, and I'm excited to see what's next from her. I think whatever she does, I know she's supposedly going back into MMA. I'm excited to see that because, she kind of has a really good base to go into it. And I think the fight she lost, she was kind of fed to the walls in terms of they gave her someone who was quite strong in the jiu-jitsu realm. But I'm really looking forward to see what's next for her, not only in MMA, but in boxing. If she does take the Marshall rematch, I know they're talking about doing it over in the US, but I think that's kind of a mistake. I think they should do it in the UK again because I think this event in general was just insane. I think it was a credit to women's boxing, and it really highlighted some of the talent that we have over here in the UK, but also some of the talent worldwide, with two of the US girls fighting in the co-main event, Mila taking on Baumgardner. I thought that was a great fight as well, and ultimately it was a highlight for women's boxing, and it put women's boxing on the map. They sold out the O2. It was super impressive. I'm not sure if they can do that in the US. Maybe I'm a bit naive, maybe they can, but I feel like the love for women's boxing here in the UK is something really special. So if they do run it back, I'd like to see it in the UK. I'd like to see Shields back in the UK anyway, because despite getting booed, of course she was going up against Savannah Marshall of Britain. I think the British fight fans always get behind their own. But I'd love to see her come back and potentially fight someone else who's maybe not British. Because I think she'd get a great reception. I think the Brits have really taken to her. I think we like her style because she's so active. And whatever happens next, I'm just super excited to see her again. Super impressive win. I think the skill set that she kind of proved that she's gotten, just the ability to throw so much and be so active whilst being so defensively responsible. Just super impressed. The next fight I want to talk about, though, is Devin Haney taking on George Kambosos Jr. for the second time this year. I did my scorecard for this one, guys, and I scored 2 rounds for Kambosos Jr., but I think they were a bit lenient. Once again, I give him round 12 because I think Haney just he knew he won the fight and he was just kind of relaxing, I guess you could say, and didn't really throw too much. And I give Kambosos Jr. round 1 because I think he kind of caught Haney off guard a little bit with that switch of style. But other than that, Haney just shut him out and proved what a talent he really is. I was unaware of him not being in the pound for pound coming into this fight, but I think with the performance he showed, he's definitely got to be up there somewhere because, at just 23, he's got the maturity of some sort of veteran man. I think his skill set is extremely underrated. Kind of has it all. I do think that sometimes in fights because of how good he is, he kind of gets a bit bored if he can't get that finish a bit earlier. And, later on in the fight, he can get caught like he did in the Linares fight. I think that was more down to a fact of him being so far out ahead. I thought that maybe could have happened in this fight, but it didn't. Kambosos Jr. really had to change his style because he was so outmatched in the first fight. I think the jab of Haney really just took him out of the first fight, and he never really got going. And in this fight, it was kind of similar, but different. Haney got the timing of pretty much everything Kambosos was doing. Kambosos landed a few decent shots here and there, but the majority of the fight, I feel like Haney was able to sting him with that right hand, the straight right, and cause him a lot of problems. Early on, Kambosos Jr. came into the fight and he was doing a lot of switching. And it kind of reminded me of MMA, where we see guys kind of like either feint a right hand and step through to the point where they're in southpaw, and then they'll throw like either the straight left or the left hook off of that. And, I think he was giving Haney not necessarily problems, but kind of surprised him, because I don't think Haney was necessarily expecting this sort of game plan. But it really didn't take him long to get onto the timing of this. And you saw every time that Kambosos was stepping through into a sort of southpaw stance, Haney was just cracking him with that right hand. I think as the fight went on, it was kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't for George Kambosos, because I felt like he started to quiet down a bit. And when he was quieting down, Haney was just landing the jab at will. And, it was nice to see him mix up the sort of technique of the jab, whether it would be that sort of stiff jab, which is so good from him, or it be kind of just more of a snappy sort of quick jab to get certain reads off for Kambosos, I thought was super impressive. So, he was losing the fight if he wasn't doing much. And when he tried to pick up the pace on Haney, he was getting caught very cleanly coming in. For me, I like Kambosos Jr. a lot. I kind of like his mindset towards fighting and the way he kind of looks to bring the action in the fight. But against Haney, he was just he just wasn't on the same level. I think Haney is just such a well-rounded fighter. He's got decent power and he can finish guys, but he knows how to fight on the back foot and use the jab, and his footwork is really clean as well. Some of the angles he was creating on Kambosos Jr. in this fight were just really nasty. He was looking to land a left hook quite a lot in this fight as well. Did quite a bit of damage to George Kambosos Jr. And by the end of this fight, both fighters a bit bloody. I think Haney had a cut over the right eye, which was caused by a headbutt, but it took a massive chunk out of the side of Kambosos' head near the ear. But later in the fight, I think Haney cut him over both eyes, and it was just a bloody mess. And for Kambosos Jr. now to lose 2 fights in the same year in his home city, I guess you could say, it must be disappointing. But I think he made a good point in the post-fight interview. He's not going to quit because he's lost twice to Devin Haney. He said that, Devin Haney is one of the top fighters in the world right now, and he just came up short against a better man. And he dared to be great. There were easier fights out there for him after getting, that huge win over Teofimo Lopez. And instead of going for that sort of easier fight, I guess you could say, he went straight in against one of the top talents there in boxing right now. For me, I kind of can't wait to see Haney again. Don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest Haney fan. I think from this fight alone, though, he's definitely grown on me. I think in the past, he's had some kind of stale fights. And also in the past, he's kind of been caught a couple of times. The Linares fight. I think the Diaz fight was a bit of an interesting one as well. But he's definitely grown on me, and I hope he can get Lomachenko next, because I think a Loma fight would be really interesting. I'm a big fan of Lomachenko, and I'd definitely be rooting for Loma going into it, but I'm sure it'd be a great fight, whoever wins it. And I can't wait to see it. Kambosos Jr., I'm also looking forward to seeing him again. I think he was a bit undersized as well in this matchup. I think Haney looked a lot bigger. But for Kambosos Jr., I'm excited to see, can he get on another run? Because this is going to be a devastating sort of back down the rankings sort of loss for him. But I think there are some beatable opponents near the top of the division for him. I still think he's a top fighter, but, Haney was just so clear of him. It was a great fight. I think for Haney, he made it look easy in the end. And I mean, shout out to the fans in Melbourne, because they never stopped cheering throughout that fight, and it was a one-sided beatdown. Ultimately, though, guys, I think it was an amazing weekend on the boxing side of things. We had Deontay Wilder come back as well, picking up a big knockout. It was a scary one as well. And we also saw Caleb Plant knock out Doral in quite a menacing fashion, and then digging the grave for him afterwards, which was very savage. I think both of those guys were expected to get those wins though, and I think these two are the bigger events for me. I do think the Shields versus Marshall event was the biggest event which happened on the weekend. Just the fact that it was an all women's card, and personally, I think there sometimes are women's fights and they're not as entertaining. But it's the same in the men's game. And for me, I felt very entertained watching that card. I think the opening fight wasn't my favourite fight, but after that, seeing Dubois, I thought she was very impressive. And that co-main event was a good one as well. But ultimately, I think Clarissa Shields stole the show. As did Savannah Marshall. She can be very proud of themselves, both of them. And I'm looking forward to, this sort of growth in women's boxing. Once again, I think it has come a long way in the past 5 years especially, but I do think it can step it up to another level, because right now I feel like UFC is probably leading the way, especially with the UFC women's strawweight division, which has been nothing but pure entertainment for which feels like the past 7 years. Nothing but top quality fights, and I do believe we're going to get to that level in boxing soon enough. Anyway, guys, if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I put a video out yesterday doing my UFC 280, is it now, picks? Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev. So be sure to go check that out on the channel if that's something you might be interested in. Leave a comment down below letting me know your thoughts on some of these fights. Were you as impressed as I was, or were you not? Let me know in the comment section down below, guys. I'll be back once again this week, hopefully. I want to do a video discussing some of the footage we're seeing from ESBC because that, well, Undisputed now. It's a game I'm very intrigued by. I've been following it for the past couple of years and kind of excited to see it come out. But yeah, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.